the person who is the official in charge of deciding whether to bring Guantanamo Bay detainees to trial, the person in charge of the whole process for the Defense Department, is a woman named Susan J. Crawford. She is a former general counsel for the Army during the Reagan administration. She's a Pentagon Inspector General when Dick Cheney was Secretary of Defense. She was appointed by Robert Gates. She's a lifelong Republican, and she has now officially said that, yes, the United States of America committed torture in Guantanamo Bay. Specifically with Mohammed al-Qahtani, the man who was believed to be the 20th hijacker, and she said, I refuse to bring his case forward because what we did to him was torture, and it tainted everything else that we did along with it. And it is a stunning admission. It's not stunning to us because we knew it happened, but it's stunning only in that someone in the Bush administration actually admitted it and used the word torture. And Crawford said, quote, to the Washington Post, I was upset by it. I was embarrassed by it. If we tolerate this and allow it, then how can we object when our servicemen and women or others in foreign service are captured and subjected to the same techniques? How can we complain? So she said, no, it is not what the United States of America should be doing, and we can't have it. So she said it was not one specific action, but a combination of all the different techniques that we used against them, including threatening him with dogs, stripping him naked, extreme temperatures, sleep deprivation, degrading treatment, including putting women's panties on his head, telling him that his mother and sister are whores, literally. Now, again, one of these by itself might have been something that you can get over, especially the verbal taunts, which are silly, right? But a combination of all these tactics actually led him, especially the cold and the heat and the sleep deprivation, etc., led him to significant medical problems. His heart rate dropped to 60 at one point, and doctors were concerned, and they brought him in, and then his heart rate dropped down to 35, and they thought he was going to die. And it turns out he didn't. He made it past that. But obviously, we subjected him to such physical abuse that he was on the precipice of dying. And remember, others, not at Guantanamo Bay, but at Bagram Air Base and at facilities throughout Iraq, have died. There's been over 100 deaths of detainees that the U.S. Was in charge of, including 34 homicides, according to the Secretary of Defense, people who were killed while being U.S. detainees. So now when Dick Cheney was asked about this on NewsHour with Jim Lehrer, he said, well, I can't claim perfection. We might have tortured some of those people, but not all of them. Now, I can't claim perfection is a direct quote. The rest of it was his implication. Oh, well, we did a little bit of torture. Come on. Let us just do that. What's the big deal? Now, by the way, this is just, we're only talking about the admission of the Bush administration. Things they have not admitted, but that are clear from testimony from the CIA and FBI, off the record, on the record, is we buried a guy alive. He's the one that gave us the false intelligence on Iraq, to the point where he thought we were going to fully bury him alive and kill him. We didn't. We pulled him out before that happened. We've physically beat detainees. We've waterboarded them. 3 people we've admitted we waterboarded, including Zubaydah, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, and Qahtani. Now the new Attorney General to be, Eric Holder, if he is confirmed, was in front of the Senate, and they asked him, look, previous Republican Attorney General nominees would not answer this question. Mukasey didn't answer it. Gonzalez didn't answer it. Give us a clear and direct answer here. Is waterboarding torture? And Eric Holder said unequivocally and without hesitation, waterboarding is torture and will not be allowed to happen under our administration if I'm confirmed. Now, that is a significant change, obviously, because Dick Cheney has admitted in previous interviews, yes, I think waterboarding is fine. I think it's acceptable. And I think we got really valuable intelligence out of it, and it was worth it. Now, he said that with Jim Lehrer as well. Oh, the intelligence, you wouldn't believe it. Well, you know, Dick, you're right. I wouldn't believe it. Because you've never, ever actually shown any intelligence you've gotten from these, except the one intelligence we know they got was this Ibn al-Sheikh al-Libi, who they buried alive and beat halfway to death before they buried him alive in Egypt. he said, when we did some extraordinary rendition on him, basically kidnapping him and having Egypt torture him with CIA supervision, he said, yes, Iraq and al-Qaeda are linked when he knew that they weren't linked. He said that. Why? Because he wanted them to stop torturing him, and he didn't want to die being buried alive. And it is the same exact thing that every other expert analysis has ever said about torture. If you torture people, they will tell you what you want to hear, not what is necessarily true. Now, some watching, I'm sure, will think, well, Mohammed al-Qahtani, he was the 20th hijacker. And we believe, and we have reasonable evidence to believe that he is. In fact, the FBI did an investigation of Qahtani in the first place and pretty much showed, not proved in court, but showed beyond my reasonable doubt that he was the 20th hijacker. That's how the CIA found him in the first place. Now, the FBI did their job, and they thought that he was going to get extradited and tried in America, because you can't have a more serious crime than conspiracy to commit 9/11, which he was part of. The FBI was sorely mistaken. What the CIA did instead, under the orders, we believe, of Dick Cheney, ultimately, he's the one that engineered all of this, they said, oh, thank you very much for your work, trial my ass, we're going to go take him, make him a secret prisoner, a ghost detainee, and torture him until we get some sort of information. Whether that information is true or untrue, who cares? We just want whatever we want out of him. And, by the way, Cheney did use that intelligence he got out of al-Libi to invade Iraq. Mission accomplished for him. For him, it was a very valuable resource. He got exactly what he wanted out of it. False information, false intelligence that led to... By the way, that false intelligence they got out of Libya, Colin Powell used at the UN. That's specific as to how it led to the Iraq War. And all of these methods, by the way, were from a Chinese manual that from back in the 1950s that they used to elicit false confessions from Americans captured in war. So Cheney knew all along what the real point of this torture was. One thing that was left a little unnoticed in one of the interviews that Cheney's given, and he's given a lot of these interviews, and they remind me totally of Frost Nixon, and I think Cheney's hanging himself to some degree in these interviews, and that they could be used one day against him, because he admits to waterboarding, he admits, in this case, to torture, but you know what, I can't claim perfection. We might have tortured every once in a while. But one thing that was left unnoticed was, he said at one point, well, you know, I wasn't directly in the chain of command, but if I was, I think that all this would have been a good idea. You see what he just did there? He said, oh, no, the vice president has no power. What are you talking about? Bush is in the chain of command. Gonzalez probably is in the chain of command. Rumsfeld is in the chain of command. But me? No, I'm just a simple vice president. I mean, I can't be held responsible for any of this, even though it was all my idea and I got them all to do it, but I'm not in the chain of command. See, Alberto Gonzalez and Bush and Rumsfeld, you're all idiots. Cheney set you up, man. He got you to do everything he wanted. And then all along, he'd been keeping that excuse in his back pocket. Chain of command. No, you guys are in the chain of command. Oh, you did what I wanted? Sad day for you. I got nothing to do with it. I got a perfectly good legal excuse. Now, does he? That's a different question. But you know what? Even as I look at it, I think, that's not that bad a legal excuse. And all the idiots who listened to him, who did his bidding, well, boy, did they have it coming.